So you can see there quite extensive damage to both of those two. Gomedy's car just slams into the side of the Conquest Racing champ car, Belgian Grand Prix of Belgium car of Jan Heylen. He comes to rest a rear wing about 10 yards away from the car, and there is Jan Heylen sitting in the Holmetro safety truck, make his way back to the pit lane. I said he did a super job, didn't he? Last week, 2 weeks ago in Portland, came in with absolutely no testing, was running in or around the verge of the top 10 right at the end of the race. He was ahead of Paul Tracy, I think, at the closing stages, and he ran out of fuel just 1 lap from the end of the race, as in fact did Catherine Legg. If not for that, everybody would have finished that race. We're under caution here in Cleveland.
Closed up thing when we go back to green in Cleveland.
So on board with Will Power in the lead of the race. He's done a super job this season, has Will Power. He led 38 laps en route to victory in Las Vegas, led 3 laps in Portland. The best championship finish for Walker Racing in its history is 2nd place in 1997. That was with Gilles de Ferran. And Will Power currently, of course, lies 2nd in the points table, just 11 markers behind Sébastien Bourdais coming into the weekend. However, Bourdais has already made up a couple of points this weekend by virtue of the fact he was quickest in qualifying on Friday and did the same on Saturday as well in claiming the pole position. So that lead going up to 13 points coming into this weekend. But certainly Will Power is having a breakthrough season. And he said coming into the season, you know, if I can minimize my mistakes, maybe I've got a shot at the championship.
And he absolutely does. I mean, he certainly ended last year incredibly strong. I look back to Surfers Paradise, a race that he absolutely should have won if it wasn't for the man right behind him when they got into a bit of a tussle and ended up taking each other out. So he ended very strong, and he knew coming into this season, especially with a new car, that he had a really good shot at it, and he's really proved to be up there. Sébastien obviously has been doing very well, but Will just keeps taking off the results, and that's why, like you say, he was only 11 points back coming into this race, and there's still a lot of racing to go in this season.
Isn't there, Jess? It's a busy part of the season too now. 1 week hence we will be at Saint-Jovite for Circuit Mont-Tremblant in Quebec, Canada. 1 week later in Toronto, Canada. Then 2 weeks after that we'll move over to the west coast of Canada, just short of the Rocky Mountains, to Edmonton for yet another race. So a very busy part of the season, and you need to be scoring points on a regular basis now to maintain your championship challenge.
Yeah, it really is consistency when you've got such a tight stretch here. Obviously the best way to try and get points, and you know, you can either race for wins or race for points, but it's like I always say, the best way to get points is to win the race, get more than all the other guys. So it is an important stretch, and it's good results, keep morale up, keep confidence up, and make sure that you can consistently perform on track.
Cameron Steele is with
It definitely
TZ.
looked like he had a mixed set of Bridgestones, and you reported it on TV. John Tzanikis, who's on the radio with Graham, he looked around and said, what? And they went checking around, but that wasn't the case, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, you kind of scared us there a little bit. We had reds on at the beginning of the race, and we got in that little altercation with Dornbos, and PT ran into us, and it rubbed the red right off the tires. So that's why it looks like we have 3 reds and 1 black on there at the moment.
So a little bit of panic ensuing down here. Just so you know, the rules state you have to run a complete set of either red or black.
That's right, no mixing and matching is allowed in this series, and you know, the tires, Bridgestone is adamant about that. They develop these tires to work in conjunction with each other. They don't need to be running with different compounds and constructions on different parts of the car. It just gives potential for somebody to get an unfair advantage, and this series is all about maximising what you've got and not making up things as you go along. So it's Graham Rahal there. He's made his pit stop, and it's now just run down the order for you. You can see it at the top of the screen. It's Will Power from Sébastien Bourdais and Simon Pagenaud, Frenchman in 2nd and 3rd. Then the 2 Englishmen, Dan Clark and Justin Wilson, and Graham Rahal amazingly up into 6th place now, and certainly very much back in contention, as is Paul Tracy, who runs in 7th. And then Alex Tagliani, Robert Dornbosch and Ryan DL rounding out the top 10. Oriol Serviu, who certainly had a difficult weekend, is running in 11th place ahead of Neil Jani. And his PKB teammate Tristan Gomedy out of the race along with Jan Heylen. Catherine Legg also has fallen by the wayside with a mechanical problem. And Bruno Junqueira, the second of the Dale Coyne cars, is out, as is Alex Figge.
Yeah, bad luck for Dale Coyne Racing. Obviously, Catherine with a mechanical problem and Bruno with that contact there from PT. But, you know, Catherine's been doing quite well. She qualified right behind Bruno, almost the exact same lap time. So I know she struggled a bit at the beginning of the season. And at times I may have been a bit critical of some of her driving moves, but she's certainly been buckling down and really getting her foot down and doing quite a good job. So it's unfortunate for her to have such bad luck early in the race.
You're right. She's certainly working very hard, and she seems to have the bulk of the mechanical gremlins on the car for Dale Coyne Racing, particularly over the last 2 weekends at Portland. She had all sorts of little dramas, niggly little dramas that restricted the amount of track time she was able to get, and this weekend as well. So, but she stepped it up well in that final qualifying session. As you said, qualified directly behind her much more experienced teammate Bruno Junqueira. Still under caution, getting ready to go back to green. Will Power leads. So there are a couple of pit stops. That is
Neil Gianni and Robert Dornbos.
Indeed it is. Running from positioned around about top 10. Dornbos in 9th place. Neil Gianni in 12th. They're going to come in and take a top off of fuel. Change tyres as well, certainly in the case of Robert Dornbos. Red tyres, as you can see, going onto that car of the Minardi Team USA squad. And away goes Robert Dornbos. Bill Stevens.
Yesterday about what a disheartening season it's been. Just when it looks like there's going to be a breakthrough weekend, things go in reverse. Things didn't work out again for you today.
Yeah, I mean, we had a tough weekend, but today, this warm-up, the car was much better. I was 6th fastest, and I did a really good start, and I passed after this start. I passed a couple of guys. I was running 9th, and unfortunately, Tracy, as usual, do a chrome home with somebody, and this time was myself and took me out of the race. Pretty shame because I really needed the points. I was 6th in the championship. I want to finish top 5, but let's recover next weekend.
See you then.
Thanks, Bill Stevens, with Bruno Junqueira there. And yeah, it was a great shame. He was delighted with the car after that warm-up, and they made a big strides with that. He worked with his race engineer, Adam Schechter, and he was much happy with that car. And as he said, he made a good start, but it all went to naught after way too few laps. So Bruno Junqueira is out of the race, as is Catherine Legg, but it is Will Power who leads. And just about exactly, well, there we are, exactly now halfway through this 1 hour and 45-minute race. We're going to go back to green, and once again, this time it's Will Power who makes a great restart there, and Sebastian Bourdais appears to be caught napping a little bit. Looking at about 10-12 car lengths between them as they come through that final chicane.
Will did an excellent job there. Played the situation very well as the line of cars all funnels through.
Anything you can do, I can do better, says Will Power.
Something like that. And the thing is, especially when your tires are a bit cold and you're following somebody through that quick chicane, it really is tough to keep pace with them because of the downforce that you lose. And from as far as a second back, you can start to, even more actually, 1.5 seconds, you can start to feel the effects of the turbulent air from the car in front of you. So the leader's always going to have an advantage here in Cleveland on a restart just because it's a quick corner heading onto that front straight.
Yeah, that's always been a problem, running close behind somebody else. But we have to say that with this new DPO1 chassis, I think it's fair to say that the drivers are able to run closer to the tail end or so. As we see Justin Wilson here tucked in behind Dan Clark, they're able to run a lot closer with these cars than they were with the old lows. He looks to the inside down to turn 9, not quite close enough.
Yeah, it's a tough place to get by there. You really have to be alongside him. It's better to try and hold back, get a good run out of the chicane and dive down to the inside of corner 1. You can see there the amount of time that Justin lost to Dan Clark through that chicane, and I guarantee you it's just because of the lost airs. Alex Tagliani dives down the inside of Paul Tracy. Paul tries to high-low him. They're going to drag race down to corner 3. Both cars on push to pass.
You can see the flashing light at the back of the car, certainly on Alex Tagliani. PT on the inside, then side by side into turn 3.
Oh, Alex gave up the corner. You can run side by side through there, but PT just so deep on the brakes. Very well done. Another spot for Paul Tracy.
That's why racing is so much fun here at the Burke Lakefront Airport in Cleveland. It's plenty of room to race, plenty of room even to make a mistake, but no mistakes from either of these two. That was a good, clean pass by Paul Tracy, and that's exactly what he needed to get himself ahead. Now he's up into, 7th place is PT, and a great side-by-side battle between those two.
And now it's Oriol Servia looking at the rear wing of Alex Tagliani, PT's teammate at Forsyth Championship Racing. But Alex is looking racy. He obviously got a good run on Paul. He looks to be a bit quicker at this stage of the race, and he is going to regather himself and try and attack again. This is just great racing here at Cleveland.
At the back of the pack there, I think that is Robert Dornbos looking to the inside of Neil Gianni, that for 11th and 12th. Cameron Steele is with Tristan Gomondy.
one driver that definitely put a couple wheels off was Tristan Gomedy. And Tristan, we know you had problems with your back in Portland. Your knee's been hurting. Is fatigue any part of what happened out there? And what happened?
No problem. It wasn't a physical problem. It's just the car was quite difficult to control in the beginning of the stint with the new stickers, and I managed the fuel, and I lose a little bit the rear at the entry of the chicane, and I prefer to cross the chicane and don't take the risk. And when I come back on the track, Jan Helen crashed me. It's not his fault, so it's like that. It's really a pity for the pay-by-touch car, for sure. But it'll be better next week, for sure.
Right on there you have from Tristan Gomedy, an interesting look at what happened out on the track.
I think a little bit lost in a translation there from Gomedy. I don't think he was trying to blame Will Power for that accident in any way. And it certainly appeared from our perspective, it certainly was Gomedy that lost control of his car, and Jan Helen was minding his own business, passing around the outside when the Mega Spearer car, the pay-by-touch car, went spearing into his side pod.
But the thing is, even if Jan Helen hadn't have been there, the way that Tristan's car reconnected, he'd have been spun off into the grass anyway. He was nearly perpendicular to Jan Helen, so I think what he may have been saying was because Jan was there, we ended up crashing, but he would have been off in the weeds all on his own. But more importantly, this is the battle up front. Will Power, Team Australia, leads Sebastian Bourdais, but Sebastian is not letting him get away. It's kind of a reverse of what we had in the opening stint of the race. So these guys are they're battling back and forth, and this is great stuff.
It certainly is. And Will Power is now on the black sidewall tyres, I believe, and Bourdais, I think, is on the reds, is he not? No, sorry, the other way around. There is Power on reds, certainly, and Bourdais is on the black side, my mistake. Colourblind here, but it's certainly a great battle out the front, and they're getting quicker and quicker. 58.8 last time around for Will Power, 58.9 seconds for Sebastian Bourdais. Identical lap time turned by Simon Pagenaud in third place. Dan Clark and Justin Wilson, 59.3, so losing about 4/10 on that last lap around. And there's the lead, you can see. There's not much between the first two. Will Power trying to hold off Sebastian Bourdais.
He really needs to try and gap him at this point, and obviously he's got the advantage of Sebastian having to run in his dirty air, and I think that because these guys are just so evenly matched, I mean, you look at the times from qualifying, it's less than just a little over a tenth separating the top three cars. These guys are so evenly matched that here at Cleveland with these fast corners, it is just so hard to follow. So as long as nobody makes mistakes, it's going to be tough to really move in for a pass.
Yeah, just 200ths of a second between Bourdais and Pagenaud qualifying in the top two positions, and Pagenaud, you know, he was kind of almost frustrated. He gets so close to taking away the pole position, just 200ths of a second. I was talking to him after, he was telling me, you know, just, I could have done this a little bit differently, I could have done that a little bit differently, I could have hiccuped in a different place, whatever it took, but still, he was still pretty happy with his front row starting position. Unfortunately, he lost that advantage at the start. Will Power got around him, just a braver move around the outside, just extra experience telling, and it's Power up into second place in the early stint of the race, and now up into the leader. A great strategy so far by Team Australia, and Will Power is out in front. So there are the first two. We've got 47 laps now in the books. We're over halfway through in this motor race, 46 minutes to go in the race. It's generally about a minute per lap here, so I think we can expect now the race distance to be around about 93 or 94 laps, and that should make sure that it's just a 3 pit stop race for everybody, so fuel shouldn't be too much of a concern for anybody, we believe. There is Will Power, he leads the race, he's looking for his second win of the season and try and narrow that deficit to the championship points leader, who's behind him now. That would be Sebastian Bourdais.
I think it's a 4-point gap from first to second in the points. So Sebastian Bourdais right now 13 points ahead of Will after his 2 points for the poles both on Friday and Saturday. So he'd be able to get that down just a little bit, but of course there's also a point up for fastest lap. So right now that's actually being held by Simon Pagenaud, who's still running third at a 57.625. Which is actually considerably quicker than his teammate's fastest lap of a 58.355. So Simon actually had a very quick pace there for a little while.
He certainly did, right before that first round of pit stops, on board again with Will Power. That time around, the top three within 1/10 of a second. 58.3 for Power, 58.4 for Bourdais, 58.3 for Simon Pagenaud. The only other guy in the 58s were Dan Clark and Justin Wilson, 58.5 and 58.8 respectively. Everybody else in the 59s.
You just watch on board here how bumpy that section of racetrack is. Through turn 8, up now, down the back straight, up through the gears.